Hello, YouTube, and welcome to my fourth installment of making a platform bed with built-in drawers. And this time I'm going to start talking about the drawers. And if you remember, I talked a little bit about making an armoire a couple years back, and that's essentially what I took the wood from that and built the bed frame. So I also had 6 drawers, and I just reused those drawers to make these ones. Luckily they're larger, but essentially I just took the old drawers and made new ones. So here you see me taking the runners apart, and then again I had 6 drawers. I'm going to show you taking apart one of them and then building just one drawer instead of showing you 6 times the same thing. These were built with just nails and screws and wood glue butt joints. And the drawer bottom was in a slot that I'd cut amazingly without a table saw. I built those original ones without a table saw. I don't know how I did it. Anyways, I just cut one piece and then I pop the nails out. Apparently the glue didn't hold all that great. And again, luckily the drawers I'm making are smaller. And here I'm using the table saw. I mean, the original drawers I didn't use a table saw to make them, but it sure makes making consistent cuts a lot easier. And then now I'm just putting them together. Now I'm using just more glue and staples. Hopefully the glue is a little better than the first time I did it, or this big old long staples. That'll probably work too. But that's it, just staples. I don't use screws. And then putting the old slide runners on. I had to clean them off a little with they got a little dirty. But I just measure and stick them in where I want. And then the runners, this is how I put them on. Just blocked them up and put them on the bottom flush. And at first I pre-drilled, but then I stopped. Anyways, here I'm painting the drawers. I had this great idea to use paint that I already had from a previous homeowner, the homeowner that left it before I got there. And so I was going to paint everything, including the drawers and the inside of the bed frame. And then after I finished painting all the drawers, I decided I didn't want to paint the inside of the bed frame because I got lazy. But I paint all the drawers, just trying to keep it from, I don't know, use up paint. There you go. And then here it is installing them. I installed them this far right when I finished the 2 halves of the bed frame because I wanted to get them out of the garage. So here I'm taking that same trim material for the face frame of the, I want it to match, and I had to be a little creative because I was running out of it because I'd used it all for the footboard and the headboard. So this is the very last of what we had, and you saw me, I had to be a little creative to cut up 2 of them, but most of them were like just this one right here. And then I was trying to make them as square as possible, so cut one edge just to make it flat, and then I'm gonna do. Now I'm cutting the top where I want it, and then do a third cut to make it the actual height that I want. And then use this same sled to square those ends, which it's a great sled. It really gets those edges squared. It's really easy to use. Do lots of sanding. Luckily they're small, so I could use my tabletop belt sander. And then I had glue that was in the cracks, and I couldn't get it with the other sander, and so I just used the Dremel tool and kind of cut it out with the Dremel tool. It worked pretty good. Definitely a pretty good idea. And then because I'm using 2-tone stain, so the inside gets this gray color, and then I'll do it. The trim gets a different color, Now I'm putting the trim on. And I just cut up scrap pieces of wood for all this trim. Because I didn't want to buy any more trim. So I just ripped it down on the table saw and then mitered it on with my miter saw. Now for the front trim, I wanted it to be thicker than 3/4 of an inch, so I decided to use a 2x4, and I went and found the straightest 2x4 and the cleanest one without any knots. Still had knots, but I figured it didn't have very many and I could work around them. So I decided to rip it up, and I think these, well, so this one I'm just making a flat edge on this side, then I'm going to flip it and then cut it up, and I'm making, I think they're about 3/8 of an inch. I can't remember what measurement I used, but it's less than half an inch. This actually worked out really well as far as making trim, and it was really cheap. This 2x4 was less than $3, so definitely I gotta do this more often. But I just took one 2x4 and I cut a whole bunch of strips with it, and it actually was able to use more of it. With one 2x4 I had more than I needed for the drawers, and then I used it for the next part as well, just because I had enough. Just one 2x4. So sand it to get it smooth, and I also mitered the corners. And here's something I should have done on the footboard, but I pre-stained the edges on this before I assembled it, and this definitely made it better when I stained it later. I should have done this when I did the footboard. It would have been a lot better. But just the edges there, just that much. And then I install it on the face. Just glue and 18 gauge nails. I didn't really try to do any calculations or allowances for wood movement. It's going to be in my bedroom, and I guess we'll see. Maybe I was wrong in deciding that. It's a lesson I'll learn. I want to see, experiment. Just glued it on and nailed it on. That's all I did. These drawers really took a lot of time, a lot more time than the footboard did. And they were smaller, so I don't know. But then I do a lot of sanding. So this is to even up the edges of the two pieces of trim, make them flush with each other. When I was nailing them together, I was concentrating more on the way it looked instead of the flatness on the edge. And then I round the edges with my router. And I do more sanding. Luckily the drawers are small enough that I could use that, but I couldn't. I had to do this with the hand sander. Didn't get everything. So here I'm taping them off to do the staining, because I don't want to get the different stain inside the inner parts. And again, because I stained that edge already, I didn't have to be real careful with my tape. In fact, I kind of wrote it up on the edge, and it was just a lot easier this way. And then I stain them, same as all the other parts before, with that dark stain. And then after I stain it, I put the polyurethane, just like all the other, the footboard and the headboard and the bed frame. Just coat everything in polyurethane, and it's a satin clear. And I also used a smaller one, which was a little different, and I didn't like it as much as the big one that you saw me put up. So Minwax, I didn't really like that one as much. But 2 coats, everything got 2 coats. Here's the drawer pulls. My wife, she went to Hobby Lobby and bought these they're on sale when she got them. They're pretty expensive, but she got them on sale. And they're like a cast steel or cast iron, I don't know. But one of the problems with them, if you look here, is that they're not symmetrical very much, and they're not exact. They're very organic, I would say. And so the only way that I found, you couldn't drill exact holes for them. You pretty much had to place them on each drawer face. I'm centering it here to make sure they're centered, and then I kind of just eyeball it and make it look like it's straight, or look the best, whatever is the best. So not precise, just a guess on what looks nice. And then I mark it, drill holes. I center punch it. And then I would use my drill press because I want the holes to go straight through. I'm going to use them as pilot as well for going through everything in the drawer later on. So I want them pretty straight. Anyways, then each drawer has a matched handle, and that's how I did it. So I'm trying to put the base of the drawers on, and I ran into a problem because the drawers are not in perfectly straight. Look, there's a gap on that side. Right here, there's a gap, and it's touching over there. And the reason, of course, is because, well, and you can see it, I knew something was going to happen. If you look, this one, it's hard to see. Let's see if I can get it. It sticks out just a little bit. And that's because it's not perfectly straight or square, or it's not, this face, it's not perpendicular. So see what I can figure out for a solution. Okay, so it still has a gap, but it's an even gap across the top. It's pretty small, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So I think I can live with that. The only way to get rid of that gap is if I reset the drawer slides. Right now they're right at the edge. I'd have to set them back a little. Maybe I'll do that. What I did though, found some scrap strips, and this is actually the same thickness that I used when I ripped these pieces. I just stuck it there. That was the right amount. So I just made this face crooked, so when it matches up. Luckily, the other side isn't bad. The way that I installed the drawer faces is that I centered them. I just marked the center and then a certain height off the top that I felt like I liked. And then I marked the center on both of them, and then I just matched centers. Oh, I gotta take all the clothes out. Like I said, I was using these before as a drawer. So here I'm just measuring the height to make sure the height is what I wanted. Once I had it what I wanted and they're clamped, then I put 4 drywall screws in the corners. They're actually not glued to each other. They're just 4 screws. I guess it's 6 screws if you count the 2 screws for the handle. Once I have that mounted, if you remember, I already drilled the holes for the handle on the. So now I'm drilling them through, and I'm going to switch to a little bit larger bit because I want to use T nuts. So yeah, a little bit larger bit there. T nuts. T nuts are probably the best option, but you have to plan ahead usually if you can. So that's essentially how I installed these drawers and drawer faces, how I made them. They took forever. They took a lot longer than making the footboard, especially since I had to do 6 times everything I did. But I think they looked okay. But anyways, thanks for watching this installment, and remember, I'm going to make at least one more video on this series, and if you haven't watched the other 3, then I'm going to put links in the description. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.